Welcome to the Miracle Mommas Show. My name is Ashley Sabali. I'm the founder of Miracle Mommas, and Miracle Mommas is designed to raise the bar in maternal health and really provide a voice for moms to support each other everywhere. And today I have a really good friend of mine I met through Passion Tree, of all places, Laura Swan. Laura is a wife, a mom to two beautiful kids. She is a passionate career woman, and she is our current USOA Mrs. Lake Country, competing in November 2024 for a USOA Mrs. Wisconsin title. So I'm very honored to have you here today, Laura. Thank you so much.
I'm excited. You and I have known each other for a while. I love what you're doing in Miracle Mommas. I'm happy to be a part of it, and we can talk about our stories together.
I'm really excited. And I know that the topic that we're talking about today, I think is so important. I think it rings true for myself. It rings true for so many women out there. And that's having kids after the age of 30. Which I say odd because I laughed because I got married at 27, and in my family 27 was old, and I thought like, oh my gosh. So I had my first kid at 29. Ooh. And then I had my next one at 31, and the next one at 34. I wanted to there's this fear of even getting to this 35 threshold, but I want to kind of see if we can break some barriers here about the myths and about, having kids after 30 because, I'm looking at data and I love data. I think that's the grad student in me, but I learned according to the March of Dimes that 45.9% of women in the US are having children between the age of 30 to 39. So in their 30s. And I'm one of those. Now, while 3.6 of women are in the US are having children between the ages of 40 and older. And one out of 714 women have children after the age of 30, while 1 in 86 women are having children after the age of 40. So I think it's a really great conversation to have. I mean, I'm even teetering on the thought of potentially having a child, my fourth child, but that would be when I'm 40. So it's kind of like trying to break these fears. And I wanted to first, introduce you to the listeners and our viewers out there. Tell us about you, Laura.
Yeah, well, you gave me a great intro already. I am a wife. I met my husband, Alan, 18 years ago in a snowstorm in New York City. So that's our fairy tale. He's a pilot, and he was actually flying the plane that I was on. And then here we are, 18 years later, two beautiful now teenagers, and a dog. And nothing that I ever expected was going to happen did. And I've been, yeah, as you said, a businesswoman, a career woman. I work from home. I'm an executive. I'm passionate about leading women. I work for a women-owned company right now, selling pre-owned luxury globally. So I'm excited. I'm multifaceted. I did write my own story. I'm an author. I wrote my story because I thought it was important for people to hear that and to be inspired by that.
And where can people find your book? I mean, where is it available now if someone wants to learn or read more about it?
It is on Amazon. It's called The Aha Effect. My chapter is A Path to Purpose. It was the catalyst for me deciding to really dedicate my purpose to leading women to discover their purpose and to find a meaning outside of getting caught up in being a mom or a wife, or we lose ourselves, right? And that was my story. And that was what I aim to do every single day with talking with you, or doing our pageants, or leading women through my business, or coaching for Girls on the Run, or one of the many different organizations that I align with, so that we can help women and girls to discover their purpose.
I love it. And I know that when we talked, you had children after 30. Can you
Yes.
talk about that and your maternal health journey in your own words, of
Yeah.
course?
Yeah, we did talk about this. It's not something I talk about a lot. You probably had never heard about it before you and I had this
No.
conversation. I did not even get married or meet my husband until I was 37 when I met him. And up until that point, I didn't have this like, I need to have kids. I'm the oldest of seven, and I feel like I helped my mom raise my siblings for the most part. So I just didn't have, that. Like that was just me. I was really okay with it though. I was very committed to my career and the opportunities that afforded me. And when I met my husband, even then, it wasn't something I was really thinking about. And then we got married pretty quickly. We'd known each other for 3 years, and then he finally, we decided to get married, and we were married within 6 months. And as soon as we got married, I was like, wait a minute. I think maybe we do want to have kids. And so we did align on that, and then we decided we were going to have kids. And now at this point, I am now almost 40. And so I felt like, okay, we got to, clock is ticking here. And so we decided to have kids. I did get pregnant pretty much right away. So we were like, great, we're on our way. And then that first child that we had didn't have a heartbeat when we went to our first ultrasound. And I didn't even know that was possible. Like my mom had 7 kids. You know what I mean? Like there was like, I didn't even know. I was like so shell shocked. I didn't know what to do. I'd never experienced that. And there was no one to talk to either, other than medical personnel who weren't really there for how do we help women through this. And so I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing, because so there needs to be some more. I think there's more now, but it was just such a stigma to even have this conversation, right? And so we decided, okay, not expected, but let's try again. So I did get pregnant right away again. Not a problem in my family apparently. And then it happened again, Ashley. Like
I'm sorry.
lost the second one. And at this point, we're like, wait a minute, we got to decide, we got to figure out, is it because I'm 40? I'm almost 40. Like, what is it? And the doctors were like, well, you're healthy. Yes. Age is a risk, but did blood work, did genetics, found out everything's fine. What we found out was that, you know, my blood was not flowing into nourish the babies that we had conceived. So one of my doctors says, it's unconventional, but you can just try taking baby aspirin. And I was like, okay. So we started that, and that literally worked. And we had my son. At this point, I was now just turning 40. So my son is now 16.
Wow.
I was considered high risk, obviously, but we didn't have any issues with it. But I can remember also walking into the doctor's office and feeling old. So there's all these young women here. But anyway, I think it is possible. Like everybody needs to just follow their own path. And mine was unexpected, but it ended up being, right for us, and then I decided, I was like, well, I'm the oldest of 7. I can't imagine my son growing up without a sibling. So at this point now I'm over 40. And my husband was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes. So we are blessed to have my 14-year-old daughter that just graduated from 8th grade. So we can have a whole nother session on what it's like to be an older mom and raising teenagers. But that's my story. And that is, the things that I would take away from it is like, absolutely. Is it possible? Yes. Is there higher risk? Yes. And the biggest thing is to surround yourself with some community of women that you can share that, journey with, because I went through things that were unexpected and I didn't have that.
So what advice would you give to someone like maybe myself who may be thinking about having a kid at 40 or after 40? And there's this, because there's so much negativity, there's some fear, there are risks. I mean, there is data that, there are risks involved, but more and more women are, we're balancing careers, and that's the thing, right? We're balancing careers, and every time you take off for your career, you feel like you're being set back. So I think that's definitely something that we have to face. But what kind of advice would you give a woman like myself who might be thinking about having kids at 40 or after 40?
I think that if that is in your heart, that you should, consider that, pray about that, and then follow your heart. Like you said from the beginning of this conversation, there's data. Okay. All the information that comes in about the risks and what could happen, that is data. It's real data, which is happy to be in. It's good to be informed, right? I would say be informed. I would say talk to your doctor. I would say find a doctor that's had experience with, some older um, moms. But I just don't think from my own story that it's not something that people should do. Everybody has to make their own choices, right? But I hesitate, and this is part of my passion for leading women, to not follow your heart, to let somebody else's opinion. Okay, a medical opinion is a very important one. So if you have health issues, Ashley, like that's something really to really consider. So I don't want to like sugarcoat it and say just do it. I mean, my heart says that, but I think that you can make an educated, informed decision, and and do what's right for you. And it is possible. There's also plenty of data that says that women between 40 and 50 are having children, and in other countries, like age is not, it's not quite as much, as how we feel when we're here in the United States. So um, that's my advice. I would just say I would hate to have not brought, a child into the world at a certain age because of fear or because of, you know, being afraid of what could happen. I would say make an informed decision.
And when you actually were going through the process, are there more tests that you have to do in the beginning and during the pregnancy, versus if you were under a certain age, like under 30?
There's more testing. It's it's the same testing, but it's more frequent. So,
Okay.
in the last month, you're going like every week to just check on the status of the baby. Making sure that the uh, blood pressure, the heartbeat, isn't too high or too low. I mean, they just do a lot more monitoring to make sure that you are being well monitored.
And the birth process, they'll pretty much be the same as far as delivery. I mean, or did the doctor say there was anything different when you deliver? I mean, based on
No,
age.
like, from having 3 kids, which this was the thing that was, like, amazing to me going through the birth of my 2 kids was, um, your body takes over.
It
Like, it
does.
knows what to do, right? So I was not really in control. And that's a beautiful thing too. So I feel like, no matter what age you are, your body's going to be there to support you. And if you are an older mom, if you are high risk, if there are other medical concerns, your doctor's going to be prepared for all of those things. So, any having any child has risk with it. There are babies born to moms in their 20s that, have challenges too, or that pregnancy journey was not easy. I just think we grew up with people getting pregnant and popping out babies, and no one talked about like what was the journey like, or what went right or what went wrong. And I think there's just so much more information now that's helpful, like the data that you said, so people can learn more about it.
And I think that kind of rings true even with myself. My very first pregnancy, I got pregnant right away too, right after I got married. I was so excited, and unfortunately, I lost that baby. I had a miscarriage, but I didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, I naively at the time, I didn't know that could really happen. I thought, well, I was young, relatively. I was 29. I was relatively young, I guess, and healthy. I was a good weight, and it was pretty healthy, and didn't have any, yeah, diabetes or anything like that, or any heart conditions. And then I found out just when I had my mom come over, I started hearing about like other women in my family in closer circles that did have this. They did have miscarriages and things that had happened, and I had no idea. And I'm like, well, why doesn't anybody talk about this? She goes, well,
Right.
And that's the thing. It's not that no one really, it's not like people don't want to talk about it. Some people don't, right? It's very sensitive and people, it's you gotta respect people's privacy, but it's almost that we're conditioned in society not to talk about it, that you just go home, you cry about it for a weekend in private. Like I was told, you just go cry about it for a weekend, buy some really good family and friends. They said just, in 6 months, try again, but don't think about it. Pretend like it didn't happen. And I think that was more of the thought process there that really kind of motivated me to do Miracle Mommas, is that it's okay to talk about these things. I think it's healthy that we do talk
Mhm.
about these things, not only with each other, but I think it's also beneficial for the future generation of moms. Um, I think it could be beneficial.
I think so too. I think it's important to know, A, stuff happens that's not planned on. I think that people probably inherently know all of that, but I just didn't know anybody that it happened to. And then secondly, if it does happen, your doctor isn't going to be the support. They just weren't. Like for me, maybe for you, like they just told you to, go home. They told me, sorry. It was a very like a lonely time period, and I didn't have anyone that I can talk to. So having there are more now, but just having a community of a place where you can go and you can talk, and it's a safe place, and you can cry or you can ask questions, helps us women through that process instead of having to like suffer in silence.
I mean, it's the biggest thing, suffering in silence. I agree. My doctor was, he was very kind, but yeah, I mean, he wasn't there to provide that emotional support. He felt very horrible for me. He said, just please, just wait. If you can just do me a favor, just wait. Give your body a chance. And I did do the DNC procedure, which if no one knows what that is, if you're not aware of what that is, for anyone listening, it's basically it's the process of cleaning out that area of, of your body. So this way it gives you a higher chance of, conceiving. That's how it was explained to me, at least.
Mm.
And
I
it
did,
may not be necessary for all miscarriages too.
yeah, I did had the same, process both times. So it's different than if you it's different, but yeah. um yeah, I think this is a really important topic, and hopefully me being able to share and me being an example of women having healthy children after the age of 40. I was 42 when my daughter was born. um I mean, I've never felt my age anyway, so
Oh, you look beautiful. I wouldn't even think you're 40 now. I think you look great.
in my mind, I was like in my 30s, which is still considered like
I
high
know.
risk now. But, um, I think women have gotten so much better too about taking care of ourselves as we age. And, like 30 is the new 40. Like women are like really embracing aging in a very different way. So I think that that's an opportunity to say, to empower women, to be able to say, what is it that you want to do, get a green light and go for it, and then and raise your family.
Well, thank you so much, Laura, for being on the show and sharing your story. I know it's a very sensitive story, so thank you. I think it's really gonna hopefully benefit a lot of moms like myself, because I think that's our new reality. I mean, as we're moving into the next generations where more women are going to the workforce and they're killing it in their careers, and they want to keep moving up and doing great things, but also balancing having a family and when to have that family. And I think there's also other, of course, economic factors as well. So I think this is a great and relevant conversation. So thank you for being on the show.
Anytime, anytime. I'm happy that we got together to do this, that we shared our story. I'm happy to support you anytime and help the other mamas that you're also helping.